Well, back to our top story. U.S. officials are confident that Iran shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet, and this could complicate an already tense situation on the ground. The U.S. beefed up security at oil refineries in the Middle East following a September strike on Saudi Arabia's largest oil facility. The Trump administration blamed Iran for the attack. Joby Warwick is a national security reporter at The Washington Post, and he writes about Iran's growing missile threat. He joins us now from their bureau in Washington. So, Joby, are you surprised that U.S. officials believe Iran shot down this passenger jet?
Well, there's been no end of surprises over the last couple of days, as you know. I'm not surprised that they have the capability and also just the fog of war at this particular time. Remember, this is the morning after or the morning of the strikes on the base, the U.S. base in Iraq. And so the Iranians were certainly on high alert. They certainly have the equipment. There's a system called the Tor, which is it's a surface-to-air missile that basically is designed to take down helicopters, drones, low-flying airplanes. And that appears to be what was used here. We've seen wreckage on the ground that looks like that. So it could be that just someone was just a bit on edge and a little quick with the trigger and took down this plane. We don't know that for sure yet, but it looks really interesting in that way.
You know, Joby, you write that the September 11th attack, the September attack on Saudi's oil facilities was really a wake-up call about Iran's capabilities. What do you mean by that?
Well, this one system we apparently have seen in the last few hours with this plane coming down, it was a Russian system which was purchased from Russia. However, Iran has a lot of capabilities on its own, and it's been very busy over the last decade improving its precision guidance on various platforms. So it has weapons that it can launch for long distances and hit very precise targets, not just ballistic missiles, as we saw in the last 24 hours or 48 hours, but also drones and cruise missiles and things that they can guide, right to a target with electro-optical and radar devices. So it's a lot of capability and a lot of cards to play.
So when you talk about the cards to play and their capabilities, what's really the biggest worry within their arsenal?
Well, I think to me it's the ones that can come in low and aren't necessarily seen by radar. And cruise missiles are very, precisely built for this reason. There's one cruise missile that is in development that we think that Iran may already be flying that has the ability to fly 2,500, maybe 3,000 kilometers and hug very close to the terrain, very close to ground. So it's hard to see with radar, very hard to take down with traditional anti-missile systems such as the Patriot batteries that we give to Saudi and other countries. So that's a tough one. But they have other platforms as well, and a lot of these they've given to their proxy militias, to their friends in Yemen and in Iraq and in Syria. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an Iranian system. It could be one from one of their proxies or neighbors.
And what would Iran target in the event of a wider war? Do we know?
Well, it has all kinds of choices, and it may not be U.S. military installations because that, as we know, can provoke a response. It can very easily take out oil facilities, as it did in Saudi Arabia. It shut down Saudi oil production, or essentially in half for several days. It could do that again. It could take out ships. It can take out, desalination plants that countries like the UAE and the Saudis depend on for their water supply. So there's 100 different soft targets they can go after to inflict damage without necessarily inviting a massive retaliation.
So how would the U.S. respond to a direct attack?
This is where it gets complicated, because as we saw in September when this Saudi oil facility was hit, we didn't know for weeks who had done it. And it could very well be the case this time, that there's no clear signature, no convincing evidence right away that it was Iranian. And that will leave us a bit confused perhaps about how to respond, because do you take a risk in striking out at Iran if it was from someone else or by some proxy group that acted on its own? So that's going to be part of the murk in figuring out how to respond to any future attack.
And what about U.S. capabilities? How do they match up at this point?
Yeah, well, we're quite good at seeing these things coming usually. We have various anti-missile systems that are quite good at getting early warning about incoming objects. But again, some of these systems, these cruise missiles particularly, sometimes the drones can slip under the radar literally, and so we can't see them to the last minute. It's interesting that this attack on the Al-Assad base there was no Patriot missile system in place to watch for those missiles coming in. So we were a bit limited to putting our guys in bunkers and making sure that they were as safe as they could be, as opposed to going after the missiles coming in.
Joby Warwick. Well, Joby, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.